Transphobic garbage. Didn't age well at all. Transphobia at its worst. This kind of dehumanizing garbage is why we can't have nice things. Trans women are women.
Transphobic plot twist. Starts well enough, though quite forced and cringy at times. But ultimately the plot twist is just utterly transphobic. My advice: steer clear of this. There are plenty of actually good Jim Carrey movies to watch.
Aged badly. I remember loving this movie back in the day when I was a kid and didn't know better, but after growing up and coming out as trans, the movie kinda stings. I can understand the whole reveal and disgrace the plot villain part, just the problem being, humiliating a trans girl doesn't carry over well to the modern day, when that's developed into a culture of open hostility towards us. As a comedy movie goes, it's alright, just given there's too many lowbrow people who would take it as validation of their bigotry, it's a problem.
Transphobia. It was super funny in the first half of the movie. I honestly thought I was gonna give it a 10-star rating, but then all the transphobia happened. That wasn't cool.
Extremely transphobic plus better movie recommendations. Although the humor being quite crude is fine, the transphobia is not. Jim Carrey is a fine actor, but this script did bad. There are quite a few anti-LGBTQ words. I expected it to be much better being from the mid-90s, but I guess people were still very close-minded. I'd recommend Dr. Dolittle if you want more pet-related stuff, or Bad Boys for an amazing action comedy. In general, I would not recommend. No hate to people who like this movie, but it is very rude and not in a funny or acceptable way. It just aged very badly. Another good action movie is Six Underground. None of these recommendations are for children other than Dr. Dolittle. Also, The Lorax is a beautiful movie.
After 10 minutes of relentless hyper-deformed, hyper-excessive facial expressions, I had to stop the view because I fell in a true physical discomfort. So sorry to say that. I loved Carrey's acting in other movies and respect him. But in his first movies he was unbearable to me. Luckily later he found a balance between acting and unleashing the greatest number of strange faces per minute.
Wish I'd walked out. It's the only movie in my 50 years that I've ever just about walked out of. These days, I would have walked out. Life's too short for garbage like this.
The first movie of Ace Ventura is cursed with bad jokes. 2 out of 10.
Incredibly bad. It's so bad we are taunting our friend for recommending it.
I know this film is beloved by many. I also know that Jim Carrey is very talented, but I found it to be childish and unfunny. I was shocked that anyone would sit through this, no less through a sequel. Maybe I just don't get the humor, but I am okay with that.
Horrible movie. I'm going to make this short and sweet. If you value your brain cells, don't watch Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. Maybe it's funny to little kids, or to highly immature adolescents, but it shouldn't be funny to any self-respecting adult. Jim Carrey acts like an absolute idiot the entire film, and it's very irritating to watch. I can't believe the movie got a sequel. That says a lot about society, and that fact scares me. This movie, and its sequel, pander to the lowest common denominator, and that's a problem. There should be higher standards for what movies get the green light in Hollywood than this. I remember not liking this movie when I was a kid, and recently a friend asked me to watch it again, thinking I'd have a different opinion of it now. Well, nothing's changed. I still think the movie sucks, and so should you. The plot is so stupid. Jim Carrey is a pet detective who gets called in to help investigate the disappearance of Miami Dolphins mascot, Snowflake, a rare bottlenose dolphin. Come to find out that the individual responsible for stealing the dolphin is the police captain, who just so happens to be a man dressed in drag, although played by a woman, who used to be a disgraced field goal kicker for the Miami Dolphins. What? What a waste of time. What an insult to the intelligence. I can't believe this is the movie that catapulted Jim Carrey to superstardom. That's not to say I have anything against Jim Carrey. I do like some of his movies, Liar, Liar, in particular, but this movie just plain sucks. Do yourself a favor and avoid it like the flu. If you don't, you just might find yourself exhibiting similar symptoms, nausea.
I don't like Jim Carrey. In this picture. I don't like Jim Carrey and his acting. His facial expressions and gestures are funny, but just when seen the first time. Who wants to watch a picture of lunatic man longer than 10 minutes? The story is also very silly. I suppose this movie was made for 5-year-old kids. Then it serves its purposes better. The only good thing in this movie is Courtney Cox, who could maybe become a big star. In my opinion, Jim Carrey's career can't last a long time if he keeps on making movies like this.
Made me sick. Well, my wife made me watch it. It was the worst movie I have ever seen. But then again, that should not have surprised me. It starred Jim Carrey. His constant mugging for the camera has gotten old before it even became amusing. Don't waste your time like I wasted mine.
Astoundingly dumb film. It boggles my mind that Jim Carrey is one of the highest paid actors out there. This movie, and the one he appeared in following it, are unbelievably awful. I am a huge fan of movies that have a lot of absurd humor, i.e. The Naked Gun, Airplane, but this movie has none of the qualities of the aforementioned films. These films utilize slapstick, absurdist humor, as opposed to Carrey's running gag of distorted faces and talking out of his ass. Even if you liked Jim Carrey's brand of humor, wouldn't it get old after 30 minutes or so? This one is a real dud in my opinion. I give it no stars.
I'm not sure if this movie didn't age well or if it was this bloody awful to begin with. This movie only has full-on stupidity to offer. And not fun stupidity, the kind of stupidity that makes you lose your brain cells.
Jim Carrey's worst appearance in my opinion. Just a little too off the wall retarded. Like he's got extreme mania and has escaped a psych prison ward. I love Jim Carrey, but he's just stupid in this film and not overly in a good way.
Jim Carrey doesn't believe in vaccinations. He and his movies are idiotic.
This has got to be one of the stupidest movies known to man. Jim Carrey stars as a self-proclaimed pet detective who seems to lose more pets than he finds.
Transphobic scene made me sick. As a kid, I liked this movie. Rewatching it as an adult, I noticed some transphobic content in this movie. As a trans person, it made me sick. I know that this movie was made years ago, and I wouldn't give it higher mark anyway.
Unbearable. Walked out of this film halfway through. Carey's comedic style was taken much too far. Simply put, it is bad, very bad.
It's classic Jim Carrey, which is either very good or very bad, depending on you. Obviously, this film is for a lot of people, and I am simply not one of them. Everyone agrees it's stupid, but whether it's stupid hilarious or stupid annoying is going to depend entirely on you. If you've seen Jim Carrey's other early comedies, you can already predict whether you'll like this or not, because they're all just Jim Carrey doing Jim Carrey. Silly faces, silly poses, silly phrases, exaggerated movements, Jim Carrey. That having been said, this film is amusingly dated. Remember the mid-1990s, when literally every character could be utterly disgusted by the idea of a man living as a woman? A gorgeous woman, at that. Sean Young is a stunner, arguably stealing the sex appeal spotlight from Courtney Cox. The lovable protagonist flips out in an extended scene where he burns his clothing and cries in the shower after having been kissed by her, and realizing her secret, and the entire police force and Dan Marino are spitting in horror, literally, at the final reveal. Perhaps more tellingly, the gender dysphoria, sex change is presented as a result of a severe mental breakdown and psychological problems. This film would never get made today, and if it did, it would be protested and picketed into oblivion. How times change.
Comment below.